big breaking news now coming in. It's the biggest confirmation on Republic. A military advisor to Defence Minister during Operation Sindoor speaks exclusively to Republic, where he has said that we did not target nuclear bases and that it was hit. Listen in to this exclusive conversation.
I want to then perhaps also take it a little further, because there was a lot of talk happening that the nuclear sites were also being targeted. Was that true? Did we actually manage to at least come very close or somewhere close?
Okay, you remember what the DG Air Ops mentioned. In fact, a media person asked him that, did you target? And he said, you tell me. So obviously at the international level, are you going to say that you targeted? Obviously you didn't target. It got hit, and it put a lot of fear and apprehension in the mind of the people there as to what is
Was
the
that the turning point?
Possibly, yes. Possibly, yes.
The very fact that they got nervous that we have come that
Many
close?
things, you know, not only one. In exactly that half night that you think of, if you reached Nur Khan Air Base, what is it?
Where were we going further? Because I understand that's when all the calls were essentially being made by the Pakistanis ki ab band karo.
So if you've hit very valuable targets, so you've chosen your targets well.
Right.
If you hit them so hard that they've got to reach out to you, so you've done your delivery of your arsenal very well. So I think that by itself, what did you hit? How quickly did you hit them? How hard you hit them?
What I meant to ask, were we stopping there? Had Pakistan not dialed United States of America, then would India have stopped?
No.
So we had something up our sleeves.
So, see, every escalation ladder, we were always on top, no? So I'm not talking about their dialing. They are free to dial anybody in this world.
So we had something more in plan. And
yeah,
we
so
were going to go
when
ahead.
they reached out to us and they said, enough. So we said, okay, if you've learned a lesson, that's all right.
All right, the huge exclusive news break that Shravan Sen has got there. Shravan and Abhishek joining me on the newsroom, from the newsroom on that. Shravan, this is the military advisor to Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, and this was during Operation Sindoor. Indeed, a huge revelation that's come out that we did not target the nuclear bases, that it was hit. It is a huge confirmation. Could this be a turning point, and what could it really mean for India?
Well, I'll let Abhishek answer that, but let me first put this into perspective, who this person is and why this is a significant comment. For all our viewers, we are talking to a man called Lieutenant General Khandare, who happened to be the military advisor to the Raksha Mantri till about the 16th of May. This is the very period when Operation Sindoor was still going on. So the time that Operation Sindoor was going on, Lieutenant General Khandare was very much part of the Ministry of Defence. In fact, he was the principal advisor. He is also the man who has served along with National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, considered to be one of the strategic minds of our country. And for the first time ever, there was a lot of speculation about what was the turning point in Operation Sindoor, and did India really plan to stop? This comes from the very person who was monitoring all of this, was part of various discussions. Now, there is an in-depth, chronological events that have been put out by General Khandare. But before that, Abhishek, this is for the first time, very cleverly, very smartly put by General Khandare, where he's saying that, look here, we did not target them. Nuclear command centers were not targeted by India, and we maintain that. Yeah. In the process, if it has got hit. Now, we were always thinking if it got hit. Today, General Khandare is saying it got hit.
It got hit, and that's a big one, I think. So both ways. We did not target it, but it got hit. Now, you know, the nuances that, as it happens, Shravan, in the fog of war, the Pakistanis realized that when it comes to the escalation metrics, India is controlling the escalation. India is controlling where it would go, which means, for a general, the biggest nightmare is not having control over the situation. And the Pakistanis, all the generals in Rawalpindi realized, because they were hit right there where they were sitting. Nur Khan Air Base is in Rawalpindi. and their special projects or plans division, which is essentially the command and control nerve center for their nuclear arsenal, warhead, etc. That is there just barely few hundred meters or maybe less than 100, 200 meters from where this Nur Khan air base strike happened. So I think what General Khandare, and by the way, General Khandare is also someone who was Deputy National Security Advisor, who was there in the National Security Council for a long period of time. For him to be saying this from a position of responsibility that he occupied till just about a week or 10 days back, I think this is the clearest enunciation of how India really controlled the events during Operation Sindoor leading up to May 10, when Pakistan really cried uncle. So I think this is yet another evidence, if one more at all was needed really, of how meticulous our planning was, that we will have deniability, we will have careful choice of targets, we will hit them where we want, we will go hard and deep as the instruction was from the Prime Minister, and we will make sure that all through this process, from planning to execution, we control the situation, we control the escalation, and not Pakistan.
Well, in fact, we're going to take this further. In fact, in a short while from now, we'll try and explain it for all our viewers, which is that particular location that we were talking about. When did this actually happen? And what really changed by the 10th? And why exactly did the Pakistanis suddenly retreat? And was India really planning to go ahead? This is something that was revealed by General Khandare in this exhaustive interview that we have done with him. But I want to once again go back to that very moment when we questioned him about what really happened, because there was a lot of speculation that was doing the round as far as the Pakistan nuclear command centers are concerned. And in fact, that very morning after this incident actually took place, it turns out Shehbaz Sharif had already called for a meeting. And I'm going to get into the details of it. What was that meeting all about? Why did Shehbaz Sharif call it? Why did the defense minister in Pakistan suddenly get so very jittery about this meeting that was called by the Pakistani Prime Minister? And how exactly, General Asif Munir really responded? Because this is where we had got very, very close. And perhaps this is the reason why they had to dial United States of America. Let's listen in once again.
I want to then perhaps also take it a little further, because there was a lot of talk happening that the nuclear sites were also being targeted. Was that true? Did we actually manage to at least come very close or somewhere close?
Okay, you remember what the DG Air Ops mentioned? In fact, a media person asked him that, did you target? And he said, you tell me. So obviously at the international level, are you going to say that you targeted? Obviously you didn't target. It got hit, and it put a lot of fear and apprehension in the mind of the people there as to what is
Was
the
that the turning point?
Possibly, yes. Possibly, yes.
The very fact that they got nervous that we have come that
Many
close?
things, not only one. In exactly that half night that you think of, if you reached Nur Khan Air Base, what is it?
Where were we going further? Because I understand that's when all the calls were essentially being made by the Pakistanis ki ab band karo.
So if you've hit very valuable targets, so you've chosen your targets well.
Right.
If you hit them so hard that they've got to reach out to you, so you've done your delivery of your arsenal very well. So I think that by itself, what did you hit? How quickly did you hit them? How hard you hit them?
What I meant to ask, were we stopping there? Had Pakistan not dialed United States of America, then would India have stopped?
No.
So we had something up our sleeves.
So, see, every escalation ladder, we were always on top, no? So I'm not talking about their dialing. They are free to dial anybody in this world.
So we had something more in plan. And
Yeah,
we
so
were going to go
when
ahead.
they reached out to us and they said, enough. So we said, okay, if you've learned a lesson, that's all right.
All right.
To all,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes,
Tanisha,
Shravan.
we'll try and explain this to all our viewers right now. Which was the facility that got actually hit and not targeted? Now the key word here is that we did not target it got hit. Now to decipher this, Abhishek is already there. Abhishek, first I want to help our viewers understand which is the area that we are talking about and what was the turning point that General Khandare is talking about.
So we are specifically talking about the Nur Khan Air Base, which is of course information already in public domain. And Nur Khan Air Base, where it is in Islamabad or Rawalpindi, a suburb of Islamabad. And this is where the Pakistani general headquarters are. Of course, some distance away, say about 10-15 kilometers away. But more specifically, Nur Khan Air Base is something which also has in its complex or just outside the Special Plans Division, which is a specific division which deals with the nuclear arsenal of Pakistan. And to have come that close and despite clearly not wanting to hit any nuclear facility, to be getting that close, I think the Pakistanis realize the message here is, Shawan, the precision with which we could pick targets. And in fact, just about before this interview that you broke with General Khandare, we had Chief of Defence Staff General Al Chauhan speaking at a university in Pune. And he mentioned, and I was listening to it, that we hit targets within a range of 3 square kilometers. That was the kind of precision with which our munition really went inside Pakistan and hit them hard. So the Pakistanis were really taken aback with this kind of scale of precision, and I think that's why they really cried and went to United States first, and then of course made that DGMO call. General Khandare very subtly indicating towards the fact that our strikes this time were so precise that the Pakistanis really realized that they do not have an answer, and if an escalation happens from here on, they would not be in control of the situation, and that's when they sued for peace.
Thank you very much, Abhishek. Now, Abhishek, putting this into perspective, Abhishek, before I bring in our guests who are going to join us in a short while from now, I want to take this a little further now. On the 10th of May, there were calls that were basically made, as you said, going to Uncle Sam. And this was actually happening. India, at that point in time, was already preparing that what next. General Khandare also says that we were not planning to stop. On the 10th, it would have continued. Is there any indication that you have got from the top level of sources that you were in touch? That is there any indication of where we were going?
Well, yes. So the escalation metrics, Shawan, of which the military planners always talk about, was ready this time, like it was ready during the Balakot air strikes also. During the Uri surgical strikes, maybe the operation in terms of scale, when you compare them, compare that with the present ones, was not much. So I think we did not really go into that thought process to think whether we would actually be escalating beyond that. But like in the case of Balakot air strikes, so in Operation Sindoor, the escalation matrix was clear. And what my takeaway from your interview with General Khandare, Shawan, is that we were at every stage, from the first air strikes which took down the terror infrastructure, to the drone swarms coming in from the Pakistani side and we retaliating, to Pakistan launching that Operation Burhan or whatever, to our response to it, scuttling it in a manner that they cried uncle. Everything, at every stage, we were in control of the situation. And so, if Pakistan thought that they could, had they thought that they would continue with Operation Bunyan or whatever, our response would have been escalatory in a manner that we would have again controlled the initiative. And so I think at every stage, May 7, 8, 9, 10, so going forward, had Pakistan decided on any other misadventure, we would have continued to control and escalate.
Well, in fact, we have General Pandey who's joining us. He's the former Corps Commander. General Pandey, thank you very much for joining us. And for your benefit, General Pandey, I want to once again play out this interview. We've done this interview with the military advisor to Raksha Mantri, Rajnath Singh, General Khandare, who was also the advisor during Operation Sindoor. And in an interview to us, he has now confirmed that India did not target the nuclear base. It got hit. And the speculation that was always doing the rounds, that whether at all any of the nuclear command center was actually hit or did we come any close, this by far is the clearest answer coming in from the government. And for your benefit, General Pandey, before I take your comment, I want to once again play that interview so that you can hear this out. And I want your first response. As a military man, how do you really look at it? But first, let's listen in once again to what General Khandare had to say.
I want to then perhaps also take it a little further, because there was a lot of talk happening that the nuclear sites were also being targeted. Was that true? Did we actually manage to at least come very close or somewhere close?
Okay, you remember what the DG Air Ops mentioned. In fact, a media person asked him that, did you target? And he said, you tell me. So obviously at the international level, are you going to say that you targeted? Obviously you didn't target. It got hit, and it put a lot of fear and apprehension in the mind of the people there as to what is
Was
the
that the
condition.
turning point?
Possibly, yes. Possibly, yes.
The very fact that they got nervous that we have come that
Many
close?
things, not only one. In exactly that half night that you think of, if you reached Nur Khan Air Base, what is it?
Where were we going further? Because I understand that's when all the calls were essentially being made by the Pakistanis ki ab band karo.
So if you've hit very valuable targets, so you've chosen your targets well.
Right.
If you hit them so hard that they've got to reach out to you, so you've done your delivery of your arsenal very well. So I think that by itself, what did you hit? How quickly did you hit them? How hard you hit them?
What I meant to ask, were we stopping there? Had Pakistan not dialed United States of America, then would India have stopped?
No.
So we had something up our sleeves.
So, see, every escalation ladder, we were always on top, no? So, I'm not talking about their dialing. They are free to dial anybody in this world.
So we had something more in plan. And we were going to go
when
ahead.
they reached out to us and they said, enough. So, we said, okay, if you've learned a lesson, that's all right.
Well, General Pandey, this perhaps is the first big confirmation coming in as far as the nuclear command facility, and now this basically explains why Shehbaz Sharif had called that meeting on 10th of May, and of course thereafter the calls that went to America. So this is the first big confirmation really coming in from a man, from an insider.
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you.
General Pandey, the question that I was asking you, there was a lot of speculation that was doing the rounds with regards to whether at all any of the nuclear command center was actually hit. You have General Khandare, the Raksha Mantri's military advisor, now coming out with a big confirmation saying that we did not target, but it got hit. It can't be clearer than this.
Okay, look, I will just amplify a couple of things before I come to this answer. Is that somewhere we as a nation avoid even selling and talking about our successes. And eventually starts coming out from the outside world itself that what has happened. If you look at even the surgical strikes and what we did after Balakot, only we talk of symbols or signaling what we do. So even in this case, I will talk of what happened, I think, on 8th and 9th in Pakistan. If you remember, there's a small little news which came about and people missed out that Shehbaz Sharif has asked for the National Command Authority to assemble, essentially, which controls the nuclear assets and its launch and everything. So the second point which I want to articulate before we come to the answer per se is that a country which hits its targets, not today onwards, in the history of engagement with anyone, we hit our targets very carefully, selectively. We are not one of those people who will launch a missile and it may drop in our territory or somewhere else and go missing out on something. Even when we carry out our artillery duels and we hit enemy targets, we ensure it doesn't hit a civilian target which may be right next closed door to it. Unlike other countries, it may be China, it may be Pakistan, and there are so many others, they will fly something into the sky which will fall somewhere in the wrong place, even in their own territory or into a civilian target. So while that smile of the DGMO Air Ops was very clear that we did not hit or aap bataiye and that this thing, he somewhere let it out in a manner that yes, we know we have hit, but we can't talk about it. And oh, by the way, we should not talk about it. Let it come out on its own. So, what followed through? While we may have hit by default or deliberately is matter of moot question, but I definitely feel that our Air Force, our military establishment is very, very careful in selecting targets. And it does what it wants, right? It doesn't happen by itself. One is they hit this location, which is supposed to be the storage facility. All right. And that, of course, pushed the Pakistanis to go running to somebody who was possibly made in charge or who knew the issues. And there is a lot of speculation about it that these are assets kept by some other country in that location. It was supposed to be looked after them. They were supposed to be securing it. There were assets guarding it. And once you hit the storage facility, the possibility of using that system to be fired has got consequences. So one set, that means a weapon set, is off availability to Pakistan forever, for some time to come, till the time they actually come out and find out what has actually been lost and how much damage is it. Is it worth taking a risk to actually use that weapon system on one side? The second, what has happened is that the system which requires to fly it, launch it, that means the system which were available at Sargodha and Nur Khan were also targeted very, very carefully and deliberately. So both the launch mechanism is now gone missing. There's a whole brouhaha which has been taking place in the last about 24 hours when the Ukrainians have launched, and they are saying that about 35 to 37% of strategic assets which carry the nuclear assets for Russia have been hit. It is a huge hit. Do you imagine what we have achieved in Sargodha and Nur Khan? So the consequences is that they have actually gone running to Uncle Sam to be intermediary, or it may also happen that Uncle Sam may have got slightly worried and they may have intervened as well, because they cannot come out and say what is actually happening and what is being tied up. I'm sure you're well aware that even in Nur Khan Air Base, the Air Force personnel of PAK Air Force are not allowed to move around freely because there are some areas which are under direct control of the Americans. So while we may not have been aware of it, but yet these targetings have got a major, major implication, and compliments to the people who have been involved to have achieved and hit those areas. The de-escalation which was required, because frankly, our country is not interested into these silly games which are being played by greater nations and these proxy nations or these greater nations. It is focused on its, I talked about on a channel on Viksit Bharat of 2047. These are aberrations, these are side shows which happen, and therefore de-escalation was important. It has consequently resulted into a de-escalation, and they came running and spoke for wanting to de-escalate. I think it's a good thing which has happened.
General Pandey,
I will not like to believe, as a military professional who has served in this country, in this army and in this armed forces, that we do anything without thought.
can I just then perhaps interpret this by saying, because this comes from one of the most strategic minds of our country, a man who was the former Deputy National Security Advisor, and the fact that he's been with the Ministry of Defence for a very long time. When he says that we have not targeted and it has got hit, couldn't this be seen as perhaps the biggest turning point? Because this is the question I asked him. And he said possibly yes, that was the turning point, and we would not have stopped on 10th of May had Pakistan not come begging to us saying that stop it now.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, that is as clear as day. Like every time people say that the Americans came out and they offered trade and everything, and therefore we have, this gentleman is going around talking everybody there to everyone that they were the ones. He's trying to take success of nothing. India on every cycle of 24 hours came out and made a very, very distinguished and clear statement that we wanted to target the terrorist camp who were behind this tragedy, dastardly act which happened in Pahalgam. We have done as much. Don't come in between the terrorists and us, right? You are a military force, remain as a military force. But then Pakistani wanted to be a proxy of the terrorist and also of the deep state and the Chinese, you know. So they came, wanted to showcase that we are going to hit because we hit our terrorist. And they came out on the second day, they tried to do something silly. Again, by the way, our response on 7th night was still restrained when they carried out some activity. It is only on 9th, 8th and 9th night that we actually went gunning for them and told them, okay, if you're not going to behave yourself, we will go a multiple level up.
Right.
And therefore, this strike which has happened has been surely a turning point. You look at the shiver of the voice of Khwaza, the defense minister, you look at the shaking of Shahbaz Sharif. Right now, they are strutting around differently. But you need to go back and read the body language of these people just on the night of 9th and in the morning of 10th. They are very, very clear signals that they were badly shaken up after this strike which took place on the 10th.
Right.
And if they had not stopped, right, something much, much more sinister would have happened to ensure that they would have had trouble in the backyard. They were incapable of flying, by the way. 11 airfields,
Right,
all
General Pandey.
gone. Their air defense systems were all finished. They were incapable of carrying out any strikes. The trick try on Delhi, nothing happened. Their hands were tied like anything, right? All the Chinese system which they had got failed like the Chinese equipment and the ideology which they carry, right? So I surely think that is a great turning point.
Okay.
And that one couple of
General
levels
Pandey.
up with which we went has de-escalated the situation.
General Pandey, I'm told that General Bakshi is also joining us. General Bakshi, we've had the military advisor to Raksha Mantri during Operation Sindoor for the first time now confirming that what really happened on 10th of May. Did we actually hit the nuclear command center? The man has now made it clearer than ever before. This is the biggest ever confirmation coming in. He says we did not target, but it got hit. That's the clearest confirmation that we have. And General Bakshi, for the benefit of all our viewers who are tuning in right now, and even for you, General Bakshi, I'm just going to play that interview once again for you, and then I'm going to take your first comment, because this, General Khandare says, was the turning point.
I want to then perhaps also take it a little further, because there was a lot of talk happening that the nuclear sites were also being targeted. Was that true? Did we actually manage to at least come very close or somewhere close?
Okay, you remember what the DG Air Ops mentioned?
Thank you for telling us that Kirana Hill houses some nuclear installation. We did not know about it. Okay. And we've not hit Kirana Hills, whatever is there. Okay. I did not brief in my briefing yesterday. Thank you.
In fact, a media person asked him that, did you target? And he said, you tell me. So obviously, at the international level, are you going to say that you targeted? Obviously, you didn't target. It got hit. And it put a lot of fear and apprehension in the mind of the people there as to what is
Was
the
that the
condition.
turning point?
Possibly, yes. Possibly, yes.
The very fact that they got nervous that we have come that
Many
close?
things, you know, not only one. In exactly that half night that you think of, if you reached Nur Khan Air Base, what is it?
Where were we going further? Because I understand that's when all the calls were essentially being made by the Pakistanis ki ab band karo.
So, if you've hit very valuable targets, so you've chosen your targets well.
Right.
If you hit them so hard that they've got to reach out to you, so you've done your delivery of your arsenal very well. So I think that by itself, what did you hit? How quickly did you hit them? How hard you hit them?
What I meant to ask, were we stopping there? Had Pakistan not dialed United States of America, then would India have stopped?
No.
So we had something up our sleeves.
So, see, every escalation ladder, we were always on top, no? So I'm not talking about their dialing. They are free to dial anybody in this world.
So we had something more in plan, and we were going to go
when
ahead.
they reached out to us and they said enough. So we said, okay, if you've learned a lesson, that's all right.
General Bakshi, no more speculation. This is the top military advisor now confirming to Republic TV that we did hit the nuclear command center. What do you make of it, General Bakshi?
Look, it has been out in the open source analysis, OSINT media, that we have hit 3 nuclear targets in Pakistan. One is the Kirana Hills near Sargodha. The second is the Chagai Hills nuclear weapon storage site near, Jacobabad Air Base, where the F-16, that is the headquarters of the X-16s, which were, modified for glide toss bombing, delivery of nuclear weapons. The Kirana Hills facility was to service the missile, was to provide warheads to mate on the nuclear-tipped missiles that they were to fire, planning to fire towards us. And the third facility, which has now been confirmed by General Bhandare, is the Strategic Plans Division Nuclear Command Post. In the Nur Khan Air Base. The strategic command post, which deals with your national command authority, sits there and decides on nuclear weapon usage. All 3 facilities, it seems from OSINT sources and from oblique references by the official media, have been confirmed. I would like to state at this stage very unequivocally that we have had a clear-cut victory in this 96 hours war, as clearly established by international experts like Tom Cooper, like Ladwig of the Royal United Services Institution, like John Sinclair, of the the West Point, who is the professor of urban warfare at West Point. I mean, all these 3 military experts and many others have clearly confirmed that India had the decisive edge out. Whatever targets, whatever aims it wanted to achieve, political aims, in terms of hitting the 9 terror headquarters and infrastructure sites in Pakistan, 5 in POK, 4 in the heartland of Punjab, to include Bawalpur, Muridke, Sialkot, where we had respectively the headquarters of the Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Toiba, Hizbul Mujahideen. Also Muzaffarabad, they've been blasted to smithereens. You can see the rubble of those grand palatial buildings made as universities of terror. So that was our political aim that has been achieved. That was revenge for Pahalgam. The next day, Pakistan escalated, went up one more notch up the escalation ladder. The first escalation ladder it had climbed was in Pahalgam with the mass casualty strike, communal strike. The next one was that it decided to hit our air bases and military targets. 15 military targets it tried to hit on the night of 8th, 9th, right? It fired about 400 drones. It launched about 400 Turkish and Chinese drones, mostly Turkish drones at these sites, over 90% of which were shot down and they hardly did any damage. This was largely a probing attack. The next day they came back with a couple of 100 drones, and this time they also added tactical ballistic missiles and, also the conventional, cruise missiles, right? Cruise missile strikes from the beyond visual range capacity. Once again, they tried to hit our air bases. Not one. Our air defense, integrated air defense, comprising of the layers of S-400, the Barak 8, medium-range SAMs, long-range, medium-range SAMs, and then our Akashes, then the Spiders, and finally our V-Shorats and the close-in defenses, legacy defenses, upgraded, modified to include our L-70, our Zu-23, and our Shilkas. They proved to be a formidable iron dome. Again, Not one single tactical ballistic missile got through. Not
General
one
Bakshi,
Shaheed.
that's another significant point that General Khandare also makes in the interview, where he says that the nuclear bluff was called out. But another important point, General Bakshi, I want to share with you, because General Khandare says that we were not going to stop on the 10th of May. The plan was very clear. India would have continued perhaps some other targets, but he has now confirmed that India had no plans of stopping it on the 10th of May had it not been for the Pakistanis begging us and in fact taking the option of retreat. It is an option that was given by India to the Pakistanis. So it has nothing to do with the United States of America. General Khandare makes it very clear that India would have continued on 10th of May. And this would have continued had it not been for the Pakistanis taking the option that we had given them.
Look, we provided off-ramps to Pakistan even after we hit the terror camps, right? On the first day itself, we had provided an off-ramp. Our DGMO had rung up their DGMO who did not take that damn call, but it was clearly conveyed to him that we have hit your terror bases and we are prepared to call it off provided you behave. Pakistan decided to escalate. And then we hit it really hard. Look, if out of 12 air bases, 11 of your air bases get hit, what does that show about your air defense capabilities of Pakistan? They were obliterated, 4 of their radars. In fact, the news is 7 radars have been destroyed and huge gaps opened in their air defense network, which we exploited to attack out of 12, 11 of their airfields, starting from Skardu, going down to Karachi. What does that say about the comprehensive nature of our victory, of our air superiority we had gained? When he tried to hit our air bases, our military targets, he tried to hit Delhi. And that particular, tactical ballistic missile, Shaheen-1, was shot down over Sirsa by our S-400s. The Fateh-2 was also shot down, which was aimed at the Golden Temple. All of these were brought down. 100% of the tactical ballistic missiles, 98% of the cruise missiles, and also almost 90% of the all over from J&K to Bhuj, agricultural fields and the desert sands of Rajasthan and in Gujarat. We have comprehensively given them a beating. But the problem is we have lost the war of the narratives, at least in the first 5 days. We let that narrative, be hijacked by Pakistan, by our silly silence. I couldn't make out the basis of that silence, you see, or our briefings by civilians on military operations. I thought that was violative of the Union War Book, which lays down which ministry deals with what. In wartime, in my time in the MO Directorate, reps from the MO, Air Ops, Naval Ops used to brief every single day of the Kargil War. So we had these SOPs in place. I see no reason why they were violated, why emphasis was put more on political signaling or putting lady officers out there. I mean, it's very nice we put them out there, but then we should have put the professionals who were doing the planning and execution, which is what Pakistan did. And it carried more credibility. So the fact is, we have to get our Information Warfare Act together. The good thing is that the truth is coming out by slow degrees. Every day, in every way, more and more and more of the truth is being revealed. Pakistan has been clobbered and clobbered hard. It has been clobbered in a way that it cannot deny, however hard it tries.
Well, in fact,
because
General
Bahawalpur
Bakshi,
is in the middle of the city. Lahore, Muridke is in the middle of the city.
well, General Bakshi, they've gone a step
Sialkot.
ahead. They've gone a step ahead. Today they have released a dossier saying that we've got hit at a number of places. In fact, I'm just going to put out that entire graphic that we have just made for our viewers, because in a dossier that they have made, they have also admitted that Peshawar was hit. They've also admitted that Jang was hit. These are some of the places that are right deep inside, east of Indus, that have all been hit here. General Bakshi, we have put out revelation that has been made by the Pakistanis themselves. Pakistanis have admitted today that it is not limited to 8 or 9 targets. It has gone way beyond that. And that, remember, as India has been pointing out, that this is a calibrated response to the dastardly attack that they carried out, and the fact that they were still targeting several of the civilian areas, and that is the reason why they say it's a measured response coming in. I'm just going to once again play that interview that we've had with the military advisor to Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh, General Khandare, who spoke to us.
I want to then perhaps also take it a little further, because there was a lot of talk happening that the nuclear sites were also being targeted. Was that true? Did we actually manage to at least come very close or somewhere close?
Okay, you remember what the DG Air Ops mentioned?
Thank you for telling us that Kirana Hill houses some nuclear installation. We did not know about it. Okay. And we've not hit Kirana Hills, whatever is there. Okay. I did not brief in my briefing yesterday. Thank you.
In fact, a media person asked him that, did you target? And he said, you tell me. So obviously, at the international level, are you going to say that you targeted? Obviously, you didn't target. It got hit. And it put a lot of fear and apprehension in the mind of the people there as to what is
Was
the
that the turning point?
Possibly, yes. Possibly, yes.
The very fact that they got nervous that we have come that
Many
close?
things, you know, not only one. In exactly that half night that you think of, if you reached Nur Khan Air Base, what is it?
Where were we going further? Because I understand that's when all the calls were essentially being made by the Pakistanis ki ab band karo.
So, if you've hit very valuable targets, so you've chosen your targets well.
Right.
If you hit them so hard that they've got to reach out to you, so you've done your delivery of your arsenal very well. So I think that by itself, what did you hit? How quickly did you hit them? How hard you hit them?
What I meant to ask, were we stopping there? Had Pakistan not dialed United States of America, then would India have stopped?
No.
So we had something up our sleeves.
So, see, every escalation ladder, we were always on top, no? So, I'm not talking about their dialing. They are free to dial anybody in this world.
So we had something more in plan.
Yeah,
we
so
were going to go
when
ahead.
they reached out to us and they said, enough. So, we said, okay, if you've learned a lesson, that's all right.